Okay. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. So, I want to welcome you guys to class number 7 from our series, Obstacles in the Path of Servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we now come to obstacle number 5. And that is bad company, which in Arabic is a suhbatu as-sayyi'ah, bad company. Without a doubt, bad company is an obstacle in one's journey in becoming a better servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Without a doubt, bad company, the company that you keep around you, the people that you keep around you, can sometimes be an obstacle for you in your journey to becoming a better servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's for a number of reasons. The company that we keep around us can negatively impact our journey to being better servants of Allah. Keep in mind our goal, our objective, in our journey of life is to be better servants of Allah so that we end up meeting Allah, meeting God in the best state of, that we can be in, the best state of self. All right, meeting God, meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best state of self. And our journey, our entire journey through this human experience is giving us or providing us the grounds, or providing us with the platform by which we can become better servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And along this path, we have to be aware of the obstacles that are along this path, along this journey. One of those obstacles will without a doubt be the negative company or the negative people that you keep around you. Our company should complement our journey, not complicate it, all right, or contradict it. Let me say that again. The company that we keep around us, our company should complement our journey, not complicate it or contradict it. If you are a Muslim or profess to be a practicing Muslim, and the people that you associate with for the most part are people whose lifestyles contradict what you say you are or complicate what you say you are a walking contradiction. I'll say that again. If you profess to be a practicing Muslim or trying to be a practicing Muslim, right, on the Sirat al-Mustaqim, on the straight path that leads to where? We say we're on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Where does that lead to? Where does the straight path lead to? The straight path leads directly to God. Leads directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we say this, we supplicate for this in every prayer. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, guide us to the straight path. We believe that there is only one path to get to God. And that is the path that He legislated in His final book, His final legislation, the Quran, and exemplified and demonstrated and illustrated in the practices of His final prophet and messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is what we believe is the straight path. Any other path outside of that, you can say what you want. We don't believe that it will lead to God. Some people say, well, all paths lead to God. I'm sorry, we don't believe in that. We don't believe that you can choose any path you want to get to God. God is the one who created you. God is the one who knows what's best for you. God is the one who dictates to you the path that actually gets to Him. And that's what we follow. So when we say, Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, guide us to the straight path, right? The path that leads to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure, leads to His grace, leads to His forgiveness, leads to His mercy, leads to His compassion. And then you turn around and you have people in your circle that contradict this path or complicate your path purposely, then you are a walking contradiction. You are a walking contradiction. Because you're supplicating for something every prayer, and then the people that you have around you are leading you away from the thing that you are asking for. You are a walking contradiction. I mean, I'm just saying. So the company that we keep around us should complement our journey, not complicate it nor contradict it. The Prophet ﷺ, he warned us about the company that we keep. He said, "Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi falyanzur ahadukum an man yukhalil." The Prophet ﷺ said that a man is on the religion of his close companion. And although the word deen was used here, what does it mean? A man is on, oftentimes we hear people utter this, we hear people regurgitate this, but we want to look a little deeper. We don't want to be the type of people who just accept phrases and jargon that is just passed around from Muslim to Muslim, and we don't really know what it actually means. And this is the way cults start in Islam. Cults start because they create a language. Language and culture go hand in hand. So when you allow people to control the language, you are essentially allowing them to control the culture. You follow me? And this is a big mistake African American Muslims have done for years. And this is why so many different cults have come and gone in the African American Muslim community here in America. In our communities, we have been subjected to so many different interpretations of Islam that we don't even know what Islam is. And I'm just being honest with you. A lot of us talk about being on the haqq and being on the truth and being upon this. And you have to step back for a second and ask yourself, do you even know what truth is? You're saying that you're on the haqq. Do you even know what that means? Anyone who controls the language controls the culture. You understand? And for a long time, there has been groups of Muslims who have claimed to know Arabic and understand Arabic better than this one, better than that group, right? Whether it has been under the guise of following particular scholars, they know Islam better than we do, we should follow them, or they know the language, or this one knows the language, and anybody who controls the language controls the culture. I hope you guys are paying attention. Stop allowing people to interpret Islam for us and then create a culture based upon that interpretation. And there we are once again following a trend, following a cult. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in this hadith, "Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi," that a man is on the deen of his close friend and companion. So let every one of you look closely at who you take as an intimate friend. When we look at the word deen used here in this hadith, it doesn't mean that a man is on the religion of his friend. A man is going to practice his religion like the people that he keeps around him. And we know that that's not necessarily the case. We have tons of people that are around us on a 24/7 basis, some good, some bad. Even the Prophet ﷺ, he had tons of people around him, which is why Umar radiallahu anhu, he told the Prophet ﷺ to command his women to wear the hijab. He said, يَدْخُلُ عَلَيْكَ صَالِحْ وَطَالِحْ. Righteous people, unrighteous people are all in your midst, coming in between, coming in your presence, righteous, unrighteous. Command your wives to wear the hijab. So the Prophet ﷺ was surrounded with people of different levels, different spiritual levels. So it doesn't mean that a man is on the religion, practices the religion the same exact way as the people that he keeps around him. What is meant by deen in this hadith, as it is mentioned in many other hadith, is the character. A deen bima'na a khuluq. That a man will have the same behavior or the same practices or the same demeanor as the people that he considers close, intimate friends. And the reason why is because as human beings, we begin to adopt behaviors, right? We're creatures of habit. So the type of people that we have around us is usually what will help and shape and mold the type of characters that we have. All right, if you're around a person who is always argumentative, always belligerent, always want to fight, always want to, drama, toxic, then you're going to have some degree of that. There's some exceptions to the rule where you might have a person around you that's toxic, but you're very mild-mannered, but that is an exception to the rule. That's not the rule. So what it means, and the meaning of deen here is character, and that is because character is the deen. Character is the religion. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا جِئْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, that I have only been sent to perfect moral character. To perfect moral character. As if the Prophet is saying that there's nothing more important in his mission as a messenger, as a prophet, other than perfecting moral character. Showing you how important character is. So much so that character is deen. Your religion is your character. So a man is upon the same character and behavior as the people he keeps around him. Does not mean that a man is going to practice his religion like the people that he keeps around him. So I hope that we understand the language. The Prophet ﷺ referred to character as deen. Referred to character as deen. And many other narrations. So the Prophet ﷺ statement, and sometimes we may use this hadith to create doubt about other people. So a person may come to you, see that you associate, right, with someone. Just because you give someone salams, just because you did business with someone, just because you're seen talking to someone, does not mean that that person is an intimate friend of yours. I hate when people do that. Right? They see you talking to someone and then they come and they put this bug in your ear. Hey, the Prophet said, you should be careful about the people you keep around you. It's like, dude, I'm doing business with him. Dude, I'm just talking to him. I'm just giving him the greeting of salam. And who are you to dictate to me who I should keep? Who are you to decide who is good for me and who is not good for me? You might not even be good for me, right? You might not be the person that should be around me. With this waswasa, this whispering in my ear about this one, about that one. We have to stop using the religion, man, like in a very devilish fashion. Like we literally become like shayateen. We become like devils, using the religion manipulating the religion for our own purposes, our own selfish agenda, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi. A man is on or has the same behavior or character as his close, intimate friend. There's a difference between a khalil, a close, intimate friend, and someone who you associate with. When you see them, you give greeting of salam, you smile at each other, you haven't seen each other in a while. That's an associate. Don't confuse the two, and don't use the religion to manipulate the religion, co-opt the religion for your own selfish purposes. All right? You should be careful about the people the Prophet said that you should, watch who you take as a close, intimate friend. It's like you saw me talking to the person for 5 minutes. Does that mean that the person is a close, intimate friend? Is that the meaning of the word khalil that the Prophet used in the hadith? A khalil is an intimate friend, a close, intimate friend that you would die for, that would die for you. You would die for them. That the person could call you at 2 in the morning, it wouldn't matter what time they called you, you would be Johnny on the spot with that person. If you see me talking to someone for 5 minutes, don't automatically assume that that's a khalil, that's a close, intimate friend. That's an associate. That's an affiliate. That's someone that I ran into and gave the greeting of salam. I mean, like, we have to stop using the religion like that. Nonetheless, so the Prophet ﷺ said, فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِلْ. So let every single one of you look at who you take as an intimate friend. Let me share something with you guys while I have you here. So this is what we put on the board. Let me show you how the circle of friends should look like. All right? I do this with my other students, and I'm encouraging you all to, take a look at this so that you are clear about your circle of friends. Okay? So your circle of friends, you have your outer circle, right? You have your outer circle. You have your outer circle. And then the circle gets more intimate. right? The further out the circle, the more people. The further out the circle, the more people. The more inner the circle, the fewer people. Until you get to the inner circle, and there's only maybe 1 or 2 people there on your inner circle. But on the outer layers of your circle of friends, you have tons of people on your outer layer. Where we go wrong is that we erase the lines, so there's no line around our heart. There's no circle, no line, no parameters around our heart. All right? And we let everybody in, right? Let everybody in to our heart, all right? Until we get hurt. We don't put any inner circles around our heart. Our heart is just a representation of one huge circle where we let everybody into that circle. And that's wrong. And some of us had to learn the hard way. Some of us learned the hard way. We had one huge circle around our heart. We let everybody in. Some people failed us. Some people disappointed us. Some people violated us. Some people disrespected us. Some people didn't respect the boundaries. Until we started to say, you know what? I need to tighten the circle around my heart. I need to tighten the circle around my heart. And so then we started to put everyone in their proper place. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, "Umirna an nunazzila an-nas manazilahum." We have been commanded to put everyone in their proper place. This is the statement of Aisha radiallahu anha. She said that we have been commanded, umirna an nunazzila an-nas manazilahum. We have been commanded to put everyone in their proper place, meaning everything is not for everybody. Every place is not for everybody. There's a particular place in your heart for every person in your life. You understand? There's a particular place in your heart for every person in your life. Everybody does not belong at the center of your heart, at the core of your heart, and everybody doesn't belong on the outer layers of your heart. You have to be able to go in, sift through all of the people in your life and put them in their proper place. Some of us had to learn that the hard way. Nonetheless, the Prophet ﷺ, he warned us about the company that we keep around us. He said a man is on or has the character of the man that he takes as a close, intimate friend. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِلْ. So let every one of you look at who you take as a close, intimate friend. On the Day of Judgment, friendships that were not genuine and were not complementary of our journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these friendships will turn into enmity and hatred. You ever seen two friends that were very close to one another, but the friendship was not genuine? It was a fake, phony friendship that was based upon an agenda, based upon a particular trajectory, and those two friends end up becoming enemies towards one another. Friends who are friends for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their friendship never ends until one of them departs from this world. That is the blessing. That is the blessing and the bounty of having friendship for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for God's sake. When you are friends to someone for the sake of Allah, that friendship does not end until one of you departs from this world. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Sab'atun yudhilluhum Allahu fi dhilli yawma la dhilla illa dhillu." There's 7 people who will be shaded by Allah on a day where there will be no shade except the shade of Allah. And one of these 7 individuals is rajulani tahabba fillah, are 2 men who love each other for the sake of Allah. Who loved each other, 2 people who loved each other, tahabba fillah, who loved each other for the sake of Allah. Ijtama'a alayh, they united upon that, meaning when they met each other, they built their friendship with one another based upon their love of Allah. Ijtama'a alayh wa tafarraqa alayh, and they did not separate except upon love for Allah. You understand? That's true friendship for the sake of Allah. That does not dissolve because of some, miscommunication, because of some, minor violations or infractions to the friendship. It doesn't dissolve. And perhaps maybe husbands and wives need to work more on developing friendships rather than husband and wife relationships. And maybe the marriages will last longer. Because it almost seems like husbands and wives that they have, they have an agenda when they get together. This one, he just wants to save himself from committing zina. She just wants somebody to pay her rent and take, share some of the bills. And that's what they got together for. So there's no love for the sake of Allah. Although we say that verbally, I love you for the sake of Allah, it's rubbish. It's rubbish. It's not really real. Because if it was real, you would not see that marriage dissolve. Even if they decided to separate, they would still separate upon love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They wouldn't separate in such an ugly manner, almost as if they were complete strangers. Almost as if they were complete strangers. You have people who divorce today, and the divorce, we're talking about Muslims, who divorce today, and the divorce is so ugly, it almost appears as if the two people were complete strangers. They never even lived with each other. They never prayed behind each other. They never made Hajj or Umrah with each other. They've never done anything. They never had a Ramadan together. How can you go through Ramadan with someone and then turn around and treat them like they're a complete enemy? I mean, it happens. But that just, just a kind of FYI, maybe if this is what true brotherhood and friendship for the sake of Allah represents, that they unite upon friendship for Allah, and they do not depart except, meaning depart from this world, they do not depart except upon loving for the sake of Allah. So maybe if the couples worked more diligently to be friends for the sake of Allah rather than mates, rather than husband and wife, maybe the relationships would last a little longer. Maybe the relationships would be more sturdy, would be more, firm and rigid. Right, but we see the relationships, are very, very soft and very, fragile, and they, crumble under the slightest bit of pressure, unfortunately. So on the Day of Judgment, friendships that were not genuine and complementing or complementary to one another in their journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will end up becoming enemies. Allah says in Surah number 43, Surah Zukhruf, Ayah 67, Al-akhilla yawma idhin ba'duhum li ba'dhin adu illa al-muttaqin. That akhilla is the plural of khalil. This is the plural of khalil, intimate friend. Al-akhilla, those who were intimate friends in this life, yawma idhin ba'duhum li ba'd adu. They will be enemies to one another, illa al-muttaqin, except those who were genuine, who were pious and righteous, and their friendship with one another was based upon that piety and that righteousness. Because we know on the Day of Judgment, people are going to start spilling the beans, people are going to start snitching, people, oh Allah, it was his fault, he led me away, I did follow him, and he led me astray. Ya waylata laytani lam attakhidh fulanan khalila. I wish I had not taken this person as an intimate friend. They will start snitching on one another on the Day of Judgment, looking for any way, any loophole to get out of being punished in the hellfire. Wa'iyadu billah, and we seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from that. But you will have people who will literally start to, tell on one another. And these were people who were so-called friends in the dunya, but they will start turning on one another in the akhirah, in the hereafter, to escape the punishment that is awaiting them. And the scholars, they say, فَكُلُّ خُلَّ عَلَى مَعْصِيَةِ اللَّهِ فِي الدُّنْيَا مُتَعَادٌ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. That every friend that was upon disobedience to Allah, that you were friends. I mean, just think about two Muslims who became cool with one another because they were both committing a sin at the time when they met each other. Think about two Muslims, right, who became cool with one another because both of them were engaged in sin at the time that they met one another. Think about that for a second. That their friendship was based upon disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I met you and we were both sinning at the time when we met. It could be boyfriend-girlfriend, could be girlfriend-girlfriend, could be boyfriend-boyfriend, whatever it is. It could be, you like to smoke weed, we went to go buy weed, we met each other at the weed spot, we puffed with one another, and then, our relationship, took off from there. We met each other on disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's not to say that people can't repent. Obviously, repentance is open. The door of repentance is open. Hatta yugharghib, until your soul reaches the throat, meaning until your last breath. But what I'm saying is that people who met each other on obedience to Allah and on disobedience to Allah, and that remained until they departed from this world. The Prophet ﷺ, I want you guys to listen to this hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي Muhammad بِيَدِهِ, I swear by the one in whose hands Muhammad's soul is in. Listen to this hadith. Any hadith that begins with, I swear by the one in whose hands my soul is in. Basically, the Prophet ﷺ swearing by Allah. I swear to God. I swear by the one in whose hands my soul is in. He said, ما تواد اثنان ففرق بينهما إلا بذنب يحدثه أحدهما. The Prophet ﷺ said, I swear to God, I swear by the one in whose hands my soul is in. No two people love each other. ما توادان اثنان. No two people love each other. ففرق بينهما. And they are separated except by sin. إِلَّا بِذَنْبٍ يَحْدُثُهُ أَحَدُهُمَا. No two people who love each other are separated in their love for one another except due to the fact that one of them is committing sin. Sin separates the hearts. Sin separates the hearts. That applies to husband and wife. That applies to a boyfriend and girlfriend. That applies to any relationship, friends. It applies to any relationship where there is some level of love or affection between two people. And eventually they begin to go their separate ways. They begin to separate from one another. Except due to the sin that one of them is committing. Except due to the sin that one of them is committing. And this hadith is collected in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a glimpse into the discussion between these people who have friendships that are not for the sake of Allah on the Day of Judgment. Rather, the Prophet ﷺ gave us a very distinct relationship between the believers. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-mu'min mir'atun lil-mu'min, that the believer is a mirror to another believer. This is the relationship that the believer in Allah has with another believer. Our relationship with one another is as if you are looking in a mirror. When you look in the mirror, my relationship with you is my relationship with myself when I look in the mirror. That my brother is a reflection of me and I am a reflection of him. Al-mu'min mir'atun lil-mu'min. That the believer is a mirror to another believer. Or what happens when you look in the mirror? When you look in the mirror, you see all of the flaws and mistakes and, all of the things that you don't like about yourself, and you begin to correct them. That is what a true friend, a believing friend, will do for you. He will point out to you your flaws and your mistakes so that you can correct them about yourself. Not deflect by saying, well, you do the same thing. Well, you do the same thing. When you deflect, you only hurt yourself. It doesn't matter whether the person does the same thing. The fact of the matter is that the person pointed it out to you. And if the person pointed it out to you, you should thank them for pointing it out. At another time, maybe you can address them about the same behavior. But at the time that they are pointing that out to you, you should say, Jazakallahu khairan. May Allah reward you with good. Thank you for pointing that out. Obviously, you don't want to be around someone who is constantly pointing out your flaws and your mistakes, because they abuse your company. Like, I'm not around you simply so that you can point out to me all of my flaws and my mistakes. That's not why I married you. That's not why I befriended you. That's not why we are friends. You have some people who are very extreme with this. Every time you come around them, right, they want to correct you about something. It's just like, you don't have to do that, right? I remember, in the Islamic University, I was a new student. It was one of the most embarrassing, instances that I had in the university. But I was a new student there. I had just got there, meeting everybody or whatever the case would be. And I remember very clearly, we were standing in a crowd of people, and I had a bag of M&Ms in my hand, and I was eating the M&Ms. And the brother said to me in front of everybody, he was like, You know the Prophet ﷺ used to sit down and eat, so you know you should sit down and eat. And I'm like, damn, dude, like you couldn't like whisper that in my ear. You couldn't like let me slide with that. Like I'm eating M&Ms. It wasn't like I was eating a whole meal. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I had a plate of food and I'm standing up eating. You know what I mean? Like I was taking one M&M out the pack, putting it in my mouth, and you seized the opportunity to advise me in front of everybody. And it's just like, and on top of all of that, I'm a new student. I just got here. I don't even know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not even familiar with the lingo, not familiar with, you know, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And you seized the opportunity to check me in front of everybody, you know, and I walked away and I was like, wow, man. Is that what it means to be like a hardcore Salafi? You know, you're on the Salafi minhaj. Is that what it means? Because I know the way that I felt when I walked away, I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't feel good about anything. I was actually embarrassed. And it was almost like, you know, you get a kick off of embarrassing people. You know what I mean? Like, this is not what I'm talking about. That is not a Muslim being a reflection of another Muslim. That is a Muslim using, you know, his understanding of the religion, you know, to belittle someone, condescendingly belittle someone to make themselves feel better. And that is something that we shouldn't do with the religion. You have these self-righteous Muslims who, you know, use what they learn about the religion to beat everybody else up with it so that they can constantly feel better about themselves. That is a weak person. That is a weak person. And, you know, later on I was to find out that the person actually really was. Personally, his personality was a very weak person. Was a very weak person. You know, and you know, and I never forgot that. But you know, I just wanted, because I'm sure that there are other people who've had similar experiences with people who are around you, and the only purpose that they serve being around you is to correct you. The only purpose that they serve for being around you is to correct you. And it's like, our friendship, our relationship doesn't exceed that. It doesn't go any further than that. The only reason that we are friends is so that you can correct me when you see something wrong. Sometimes the Prophet ﷺ saw things wrong and he didn't say anything. There's something in our religion called taghafil. Taghafil is to ignore things, to act like you didn't see it. As a matter of fact, Sufyan al-Thawri said, you know, 3/4 of good character is found in taghafil, is ignoring things, learning how to ignore stuff, acting like you didn't see it. You know, that's called diplomacy, siyasa, diplomacy, and knowing when to say something, when not to say something. That we use that with our children, we use that with our spouses, we use that everywhere. Sometimes it's just not, you don't have to say something, right? There's a story that was mentioned about Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah ta'ala, who he went to go talk with some of the chiefs in Mecca, or in a particular place in Arabia. And when he got there, he saw an individual with a pipe, a tobacco pipe, and the person put the tobacco pipe in his pocket. And when they started to pray, he went into the court, and the tobacco pipe fell out of his pocket on the floor. The man picked it up, put it back in his pocket. After the salat was over, one of the students went to Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and said, you know, aren't you going to admonish him about the tobacco pipe that you saw in his pocket? And Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab said to the man, what tobacco pipe? He said, the tobacco pipe that fell out of his pocket when we went into the court, it fell out of his pocket, and he picked it back up and put it in his pocket. And Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab said, what tobacco pipe? I didn't see a tobacco pipe. He was like, the tobacco pipe, it fell out of his pocket. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab said, I did not see a tobacco pipe. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course he saw it. He saw it. But he was ignoring that because what he was there to do was to talk to some of the chiefs of the different tribes in Arabia to establish some type of alliance. And that was far more important than admonishing someone about a tobacco pipe. You understand? You have to pick and choose when to say something, when not to say something. And it's just like we learn deen, but we don't learn that part of the religion. We don't learn the wisdom part of deen. We just learn the black and white of it. Adino Nasiha, our religion is based upon sincere advice, and we should advise people, we should do this, and we don't care how many relationships we destroy in doing it. All we want to do is be able to say, I did it. I admonished the person. But look at all of the damage you created in the process. Look at all of the harm that you created in the process. Yeah, you reached your goal, but you reach your goal after creating a lot of damage. There's so much collateral damage. It's ridiculous. It almost makes achieving your goal to be, almost, counterproductive. If achieving your goal is at the expense of so much collateral damage, then it's almost like achieving your goal is counterproductive. Anyway, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Al-mu'min mir'atul mu'min, that the believer is a mirror to another believer. Yani, mir'atun turihi mahasinahu wa ma'ayibahu. A mirror to another believer, meaning you show your brother his good and you show your brother his bad. In another narration, the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-mu'min mir'atul mu'min, وَالْمُؤْمِنْ أَخُو الْمُؤْمِنْ يَكُفُّ عَلَيْهِ ضَيْعَتُهُ وَيَحُوتُهُ مِنْ وَرَائِهِ. Rawahu Tirmidhi. The Prophet ﷺ said that the believer is a mirror to another believer. A believer is a brother to another believer. He protects him from anything that would harm him in his life, and he defends him to the best of his ability. You defend him, and you protect him against harm, even if it means against your own harm. So that means that sometimes when you're not in a good mood, sometimes when you're, then, you might want to protect your brother or your sister in Islam from your own harm. It doesn't mean to protect you from the harm of others. It means to also protect you from your harm as well. As I explained this in the dua when we leave out of our homes, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever leaves out of their home, and they should say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika an azilla aw uzalla, aw udilla aw udalla, aw adlam aw udlam, aw ajhala aw yujhala alayh. Upon leaving your home, you should say, O Allah, I seek refuge with you, and azilla aw uzalla, from making a mistake or causing someone else to make a mistake. From erring or causing someone else to err. Aw udilla aw udalla, or leading someone else astray or going astray. Aw adlam aw udlam, oppressing someone or having someone oppress me. Aw ajhal aw yujhala alayh, or being ignorant or imprudent with someone and having someone being prudent with me. What that means is that we have a dual obligation of protecting ourselves from the harm of other people and protecting other people from our harm. Right? When we leave out of our home, sometimes we just had an argument with our spouse, and we leave out of our home, and we're cutting people off in traffic, and somebody cuts us off, we pull up on the side of them, we give them some words, all simply because we're angry. You have an obligation to protect people from your harm. If you are in a bad space, then you need to isolate yourself in a padded room where you cannot hurt anybody but yourself. It's unfair to go through something and then to barge into someone else's life, intrusively barge into someone else's life and project your pain onto them. That's not fair. That's not fair to anybody. That we seek refuge with Allah and adlam aw udlam, from oppressing someone or having someone oppress us. So you have a dual responsibility of not just to protect your brother from the harm of others, but to protect them from your harm as well. That's true friendship. True friendship, to protect yourself from being hurt and to protect others from your pain. All right? Hurt people hurt people. When you're in pain, sometimes you want to cause pain to other people. That is our way of escaping our pain by making other people feel as miserable as we feel. And that's not fair. It's not fair. All right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a glimpse at true brotherhood in the story of two of his prophets, and that is Prophet Musa alayhi salam and Harun, on their journey to Fir'aun. Prophet Musa and Harun were on their journey to Fir'aun. You and your companion, you and your brother or your sister in Islam right now are on your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you think about your relationship with your close friend, If you're a female, your bestie. If you're a male, your man, your main guy. All right? You guys are on the same journey. The same path. You guys are on the same path. And that same path is trying to lead to Allah's forgiveness, Allah's pleasure, and ultimately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being pleased with you. All right? So keep that in mind. As we get angry with one another, we get upset with one another, and our religion gives us that. You have an opportunity to, blow off some steam. The religion gives us 3 days, right? You should not boycott your brother or your sister in Islam above 3 days if it's for something personal. Obviously, if it's for something that is religion, deen-wise, you are allowed to distance yourself from the person for as long as you feel that you are safe from the person's harm. As in Hajr, boycotting is 2 types. There's the Hajr that is personal between you and another person. The person violated you or, disrespected you. You should not distance yourself from that person for more than 3 days. The Prophet ﷺ said, "La yahjur al-Muslim la yahjur akhahu fawqa thalath." That a Muslim should not boycott his brother for more than 3 days. Meaning after 72 hours, one of you has to make up. All right? After 70, and that's for personal reasons. Personal reasons. Person, you shared some information with them. They went and they took that information, they shared it with someone else. They violated your trust. They betrayed you in some type of way or whatever the case may be. After 72 hours, you have to reconcile. Even if you don't go back to being best friends, you have a new normal, right? You don't go back to your old normal. You create a new normal, new grounds where you're going to, mutually have a relationship. And that's cool, all right? But you got to reconcile that. If not, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels on Mondays and Thursdays when all of the good deeds go up to Allah, Allah says, "Anzur hadaini hatta yastaliha." Hold off on these 2 until they reconcile. Allah does not even accept your good deeds until you reconcile what is between you and your brother in Islam or your sister in Islam. And that is if it's for something personal. As it relates to deen, you can boycott the person or distance yourself from the person until you feel safe. If your deen is being threatened, either the person has bad character or the person is inventing new matters into the religion, all right, then in that case, you can distance yourself from the person until you feel comfortable. And that could be up until Yawm al-Qiyamah, until you die. All right, there's no limitation on how long you can boycott a person as it relates to deen, especially if you feel that that person's practice of Islam is harmful to your practice of Islam. It actually, in some instances, may be warranted that you do it. But when you think about your relationship with your close friend or friends in Islam, even husband and wife, you are on a journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just as Prophet Musa and Harun were on their journey to Fir'aun. And on your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are things that you need along that journey. Listen to what Musa supplicated for along his journey. He said, وَجَعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِنْ أَهْلِي هَارُونَ أَخِي. He said, make for me a partner in my journey to Fir'aun. Harun Akhi, my brother Harun. No one better for me as a companion along my journey to Fir'aun than my own brother. Unfortunately, some of us are not, don't have the luxury to say that. Because some of us have brothers and sisters that we are at odds with, and unfortunately, situation would dictate otherwise. And it's sad, but it's true. That's just what it is. That's just how it is. But he said, make for me a companion on my journey, Harun Akhi, my brother Harun, Ushdud bihi azri, strengthen me with him. This is part of companionship. This is part of having good company around you. The people that are around you, they strengthen you in terms of your personal strength, all right, and in terms of your practice of religion, they strengthen you. Ushdud bihi azri, strengthen me with him. وَأَشْرِكْهُ فِي أَمْرِي, and make him a partner in my affair. Meaning, when a person is your true friend, all of your problems become their problems, right? I love it when people are friends up to a certain point, right? We're friends up until a certain point. We're friends until you run into a problem, and then it's like you're on your own. I can't help you, right? We're only friends, and that's in this day and time, and like the friendships are just so superficial, so agenda based. It's like once I get from you what I need from you, I don't need you anymore until I need you again. I don't need you anymore until I actually need you again, and then I'll call you. I'll shoot you a text. After months, I haven't heard from you. Months, we haven't communicated. Months, we haven't even talked. And then when you need something, it's like, hey, how you doing? And I love how people always start off with, hey, how's it going? How you doing? How's your family? And then right after that, it's, hey, I need a favor. It's like, you could have just said that from the door. You didn't have to ask me about my family, because the reality of it is you didn't give a damn about my family. You were just asking just to be nice about it, or so you could segue easily into your requests. You don't care about my family. That's even a more smack in the face when you say, hey, how's your family? How's everybody? Hey, I need a favor. Hey, what are you doing at this time? Or what are you doing on this day? And it's just like, but that's what you wanted to ask from the door. Why didn't you just say, hey, long time no hear from, I need a favor? Cut straight to the chase rather than say, hey, how's your family, knowing that you don't really give a damn about my family. That's a smack in the face. You understand? That's a disrespect. That is what would make me that is what would make me upset with a person, because you're faking like you really care when in fact you don't. You're just using that as a cushion to segue into the request that you want to make to me. He said, Ushdud bihi azri, strengthen me with him, wa ashrikhu fi amri, and make him a partner in my affair. This is what good company does. He said, Kay nusabbihaka kathira, so that we may praise you together, wa nadhkuraka kathira, and we may remember you together, because that's what true friends, for the sake of Allah, when we get together, that's what we do. Even when we come over each other's houses, our children are playing, my child and your my children and your children are playing, my wife and your wife are in the kitchen cooking or doing whatever, and me and you are sitting in the couch in the living room. Our company, our energy is infused with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if we're not talking about deen, even if we're not talking about religion, just our energy, whenever we are together, I can feel your energy. And you can feel my energy. And that energy is infused with the remembrance of Allah, infused with spirituality. And just being in your space, provides me with, that additional comfort that I need. This is true friendship for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the type of companionship that aids one in his journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that having you as a friend strengthens my relationship with Allah. Having you as a friend helps me to see my flaws within myself. Having you as a friend helps me along my journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is number 5 from the obstacles to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I just want to end with some quotes from some of the scholars regarding friendship. Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, إِخْوَانُنَا أَحَبُّ إِلَيْنَا مِنْ أَهْلِنَا أَوْلَادُنَا وأولادنا أحب إلينا من أهلنا وأولادنا لأن أهلنا يذكرنا بالدنيا وإخواننا يذكرنا بالآخرة. Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, our brothers in faith, our brothers in deen are more dear to us, are more beloved to us than our families and our wives and our children. He said, because our wives and our children remind us of the dunya, while our brothers in faith remind us of the hereafter. Meaning, to some degree, when we're around our wives and our children, they're not necessarily reminding us of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's everyday, day-to-day dealings, family, bills, food, grocery shopping. This is a reminder of the dunya, right? That's not to say that your wife might not remind you to pray, your wife might not remind you to do this or to do that. That's not to say that. But for the most part, being around your wives and your children kind of reminds you of the world that you're in. All right, but when you get together with your brothers for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are reminding one another of the hereafter. We're reminding one another to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're reminding one another of, just seeing your brother. Sometimes there are brothers that I'm around that remind me of certain things that I am negligent of. You ever been around someone and when you're around them, you're like, dang, man, I need to start doing that more. Because you see how sincere and how genuine they are. Like, for example, you may be slacking in your sunnah prayers. All of us have that moment or that time when we're slacking in our sunnah prayers, right? All of us have that moment, that time when we're slacking in our sunnah prayers, and a brother may come over your house, you pray Maghrib together, he gets right up, he makes his sunnah prayers, and then you make your sunnah prayers. And you don't usually make your sunnah prayers, but when you see him do it, it's just a reminder to you of something that you are negligent of. Or, brothers over your house, you pray Isha, and then right after Isha, the brother says, I know I'm going to be here for a minute. I know I'm going to be tired when I get home. You mind if I just go over here and I'm going to pray witr over here? And you're like, yeah, sure, go ahead. He goes over in the corner of the room and he prays witr. And he's over there for 10, 15 minutes. And you're like, dang, man, like, wow, I need to start making witr more often. He's essentially reminding you just by his demeanor, by his presence, reminding you of something that you were negligent in doing. A sister may be visiting your home. And the sister may pick up the phone and check on her husband. Hey, honey, how you doing? I'll be home in a few minutes. The food is ready or prepared or whatever the case may be. Or I'm bringing you dinner, whatever the case may be. And the sister might be negligent in her relationship with her husband and sees how the sister is interacting with her husband in front of her. And she's reminded of something that she was negligent of. And this is how we remind one another, sometimes without even saying anything. Sometimes you're around certain brothers and you see their practice of Islam and you just feel bad. You feel like a hypocrite because you're like, wow, this dude is such, a good representation of a practicing Muslim. And he's, just his demeanor alone is a reminder to me of things that I have been negligent of. The person might come into your house, and upon entering your house, he's making the dua of visiting the person's home. After you serve dinner, the person is leaving, and he makes dua for you, the dua that the Prophet taught us of making dua for the person that hosted you. And you might have visited that man's house multiple times and never made that dua for him. And he's making that dua for you. And it's just a reminder to you of something that you have been negligent of. And we have tons of things that we are negligent, but this is what good company does. Bad company, on the other hand, doesn't remind you of any of that. Ibn al-Qayyim, and I'll end with this. Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا. The ayat of Surah Zumar, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and those who feared their Lord will be ushered into paradise, zumara, in a group. Ibn al-Qayyim, he said, يَأْبَى اللَّهُ أَنْ يَدْخُلَ النَّاسَ الْجَنَّةَ فُرَادًا فَكُلُّ صُحْبَةٍ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ سَوِيًّا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not allow the believers to enter into paradise individually. Subhanallah. The ayat says, and وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا. And those who fear their Lord will be ushered into paradise, zumara, in one group. Ibn al-Qayyim said about this ayah, he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refused to allow the believers to enter into paradise individually. For kullu suhbatin, every companion, everyone who had a friend or companion, yadkhuluna al-jannah sawiyan, will enter into paradise together. Meaning the friendships that you had in this life will be friendships that will last with you in the next life to the extent that you will enter into paradise together. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah. Can you imagine a friendship so intimate, so deep with one another in this life that it carries over with you into the next life? To the point where you enter into paradise together. And I mean, subhanAllah, those type of relationships are few and far in between today. Few and far in between today. Relationships don't last that long. Friendships, people have been friends since they were childhood friends. And now they enter into adulthood, and this one doesn't give salams to this one doesn't speak to that one. Who are you going to enter into Jannah with? We don't even have those type of friendships. Who are we entering into paradise with? Our friendships are so phony and so superficial. Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, ما أعطي العبد بعد الإسلام نعمة خيرا من أخ صالح فإذا وجد أحدكم ودا من أخيه فليتمسك به. Umar radiallahu anhu, very powerful statement. He said, ما أعطي عبد بعد الإسلام نعمة خيرا من أخ صالح. He said that no believer, no servant has been given a ni'mah, a blessing after Islam greater than a righteous companion. No servant has been given a blessing after Islam greater than a righteous companion. فَإِذَا وَجَدَ أَحَدُكُمْ وَدًّا مِنْ أَخِيهِ فَلْيَتَمَسَّكْ بِهِ. So if one of you finds love that you have for your brother in Islam, then hold on to him. If you find that you have a genuine love for this person, do everything in your power to hold on to that person. Because that's a ni'mah. It's a ni'mah to have, 3, 4, 5 people that you consider close friends of yours, close companions of yours. Not for any superficial reason, not because y'all, like to wear the same type of thobes or because y'all go to the same masjid. This is what we create friendships for today. Today we create friendships because we go to the same masjid. We don't know how to be friends with somebody and they go to a different masjid. We don't know how to be friends with somebody and they go to a different masjid. You go to a different masjid, you're actually an enemy to me. This is how superficial our relationships are today. Subhanallah al-Azim, man. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves. We have taken something so beautiful. We have taken this religion, something so beautiful, and we have desecrated it on so many levels, man. It's a really sad situation. So here, inshallah, we'll end the subject. I'll give some time for questions and answers, inshallah. We'll take a few minutes to answer any questions. You guys have any questions regarding the subject? Yeah, today, unfortunately, we're enemies to someone if you pray in a different masjid. I'm friends with you because we pray at the same masjid. Or I'm friends with you because, for superficial reasons. Superficial reasons. Yeah, this room, there's no ventilation in it. We're getting ready to pray Isha in a few minutes, inshallah. Shukran, jazakallah khair. Any questions before we conclude? Questions related to the topic, inshallah. Enemy because you voted for Trump, whatever. Any questions or comments about what was presented? Since it's is it bad if you don't have any friends? It might not necessarily be bad, but it's definitely lonely. It's definitely a lonely place, when you can't reach out to someone and, share something that's good going on in your life, or the opposite, share something that is actually bad going on in your life. It's a very lonely place. It's a very some people may not have friends because they're just very protective over themselves. How do we deal with extreme Salafis? I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't have any affiliation or association with any Salafis, period. Extreme Salafis, obviously. When I say that, I mean extreme Salafis. I really don't know. I don't know. Alhamdulillah, my task in dealing with them was very easy, because when you make a mistake in their eyes, you're no longer Salafi. So that actually did me a favor, you know. How do we start building positive, genuine friendships? The number one thing that will help you build positive, genuine relationships is when you are positive and genuine. Energy attracts the same energy. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-arwah junud mujannada," that, you know, souls that are cut from basically the same cloth, they will find each other. All right? They will find each other. You know what I mean? So when you find yourself as a genuine person, you will be able, your character by default will sift through everybody else, and you'll find the people that are like you. You will find people that are like you. Someone asked, what about if you have a person that's, can you make good friendships with people who are non-Muslims? Absolutely. Starting with your family members. Absolutely. Nothing wrong with non-Muslims who are positive, non-Muslims who complement your journey to being a better servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can you advise me on how to turn bad people into good? You can't change people. Your perception about people changes, but you can't change people. People are who they are, nor should that be your goal, to change people. It's not your goal to change anybody. Your goal is to work on you, to change you, and then allow who you become to attract the type of people that will complement you. Any other questions? Well, I have to go now. They're praying Isha, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan for listening in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all and bless you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.